Okay, so welcome, beautiful ones.
Let's raise our teacups
Let's raise the cups.
for a beautiful Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever
Yes.
you are.
Cheers.
And grateful for this worldwide connection. The World Wide Web is really serving well for this purpose.
Yes. So this week's topic is something that has been very, very, very dear to our hearts. And this is probably, I can call it the core of our research. Wealth and spirituality. So, we all lived in Ubud at some point, and Evia and I, we are 7 years, me for 5 years. Some of you guys are still there. And we see the pattern that's happening. People usually have their regular careers and lives. At some point they go through the process of being burned out, and then they decide to examine what has happened and to redefine their life. And usually through some sort of spiritual journey, spiritual practice, they start to ask important questions, and they start to kind of reevaluate everything that they know in order to understand why they have got stuck in that situation and how we can live, in alignment with everything else, not just, in stress, greed, rat race to work and earn money and pay rent and stuff like that. So, but what happens is, when people start examining, and this was also kind of our question, when people start examining and switching out of the world of business, so to speak, they somehow get deeply in this spiritual journey and somehow never get to kind of have a comfortable life. For some reason, what happens is that a lot of spiritual people end up living in close to poverty. So our question is, why is that, and does it have to be like that? So we are recording. And pretty much 50% of our sessions are about this. 50% of our sessions are about money and how can we be spiritual and make money at the same time. And another 50% is about relationships. It's very interesting. These are our most favorite, and we are very passionate about these topics. So
well, examining actually the patterns, like hundreds of people and hundreds of different ways to say the same thing. What everybody wants is to feel good in what they're doing, do something that brings joy, and something that brings money. So even if at the beginning money seems to not be important, at some point it is included in the equation and starts being a important ingredient of the happiness package, so to speak.
Yeah.
And seeing that there's no we thought, okay, there will be one day that we'll understand, okay, this one thing is needs to be done in order to access this full abundance, because we've been calling in different ways. All sorts of abundance is following advices, books, etc. on the subject. But after some years we realized that there's no one thing that needs to be shifted. There are actually several things, and we have made categories out of them, and it's
we will share what they are. It's very interesting, you will see, but it's not as simple as we would think, because they are really there is a good reason why, once that we get to that spiritual path, it's difficult to get back and have a healthy balance, because there is a combination of the things that are acting at the same time, And if we get rid of one or two, we still have four more to deal with. So there is several things that we have to clear in order to kind of get back and have this balanced life. And I want to remind, we talked about it last time, but I want to remind you of this saying of the Buddhist and Zen monks: before Satori, before enlightenment, we carry water. After enlightenment, we carry water. So really, the goal is to get the enlightenment and then to go back and to actually engage in life. No, and we know that some monks decide to never again engage in life, but for most of us who have gotten this body, it means something. It means something that for the duration of the time that we have body, there might be a reason why we need to also use it, and to use it in a conscious way, and to not fall in the same traps of being obsessed with things, but to create from the place of consciousness and joy and alignment, which we didn't start with. So before we even get into the topic, I would like to ask you guys, there was overwhelming commentary that this is so resonating with people as a question. So I wanted to ask, where are you right now in this topic of wealth and spirituality? I know we are all kind of thinking about it, but where are you right now? What are your conclusions from what you have examined so far about this topic? Are you wealthy and spiritual, in other ways, right now?
It could be also a feeling and not just the amount of money physically.
Amber?
I actually think of my wealth as my spirituality. So if my spirituality is off, then yeah, that's what it means to me.
Right. Yeah, thank you. It's definitely connected. It's inseparably, in other words.
Uwe?
Uwe?
Yes, hello all of you. Great to be back on the Saturday. Thank you so much. I think I had a lot of back pain this week, and yesterday, I had this big revelation, and it showed me clearly that our body is resonating with our mind, and everything makes sense, and works together. And so wealth could be also like being healthy is a big wealth, I think, and this is amazing, that we have this chance, that we have this life, where we can make use of it, and we can use our time for something really meaningful. And but also I think physically, money is a framework where we have to deal with it. We cannot say no to it completely. At some point we have to deal with it in one way or the other. And I think, having this healthy relationship to money is very important, also to get this balance in our life. And so being wealthy can mean a lot, that we are physically healthy and wealthy, and also can show this in the outside by having money, spending money the right way, and do the right thing with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Uwe.
Yes, so
beautiful
definitely
parallel.
It's about balance.
Beautiful parallel of the body and health, inside wellness, and then material wellness outside. Exactly, they mirror each other. Thank you. Lisa, we don't hear you.
Yes.
We do now.
Yes, you do.
That's what I was waiting for. I'm so warm up when I hear your laugh. I love your laughter, Lisa. Thank you.
So, wealth and spirituality for me, when you have the bastions of power in our world where spirituality is tied to wealth. We have the Catholic Church, We have the British royal family, this, you know, that were considered to be gods. So for me, breaking that belief system down, that paradigm down, that wealth being equated to that spirituality is actually wealth that is, for me, equates then with moral bankruptcy. So then it's entering the juxtaposition for me that you can't be spiritual and wealthy, because look at those institutions over there. That's you're bankrupt from the inside if you're like that. So that's been a big hump for me, to be removing that here are these extractors of everything out of, you know, these accumulators of the unnecessary, and calling it wealth. So I think for me it's actually reframing, like Amber saying that your wealth is your spirituality. Ulva saying, you know, equating wealth with health. We talk about, you know, when you're healthy, wealthy, and wise. Restructuring what it is that wealth means, but also engaging with ideas like the beautiful Charles Eisenstein, who engages with the gifting economy. And for me, holding very, very dear to that belief that we can live in a world without money. That we can have an egalitarian world where everything is considered wealthy. That wealth isn't just about the hoarding of gold in the coffers, so to speak, or hoarding jewels or what have you. So Then the problem with saying, well, okay, I turn my back on that system, I then commit myself to being a pauper, which means I must turn from my family's wealth and say I don't want a part of that wealth because I want to live in this impoverished. And so then choosing a path and choosing situations where where money isn't the ideal, isn't the number one. But then just feeding the little lamb that is got head butted out by his mum just then, which is why I came late. It's like, that's wealth. That is just amazing. His full belly, that you pick him up and you shake him and it's like a bottle shaking. It's like, wow, that's wealth. That's a wealthy belly. So yeah, anyway.
Great. Yeah, well, it's not coincidence that health and wealth rhyme. Yeah, it means that they hold 3/4 of the same ingredients. There's only the difference in the first letter.
And I guess in US it's quite synonymous. Health with wealth. You can't have one without the other, right?
But of course, like many other things, there is the different meaning that is mapped into that word. So that's why we are kind of we have difficulty with the word. Same as with money. We had a whole session about money, and we saw what money is and what money is not. But great sharing. I understand now. This is one of those things why we don't want it, because it represents this. But we need to decouple these misbehaviors and with what it really is. Thank you, Lisa. Who else would like to add? What is your stand right now with wealth and spirituality? Can it go together? Can we be both wealthy and spiritual? Kat.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
For me, wealth, in the beginning of my journey, like 4 years ago, I thought that it can't be similar. It can't go in one place. And now in my journey, I realized that wealth and spirituality goes hand in hand. It's almost like two sides of the same coin. And when I say wealth, for me personally, it's actually a tool for freedom. So, and freedom to me is kinds of equates to my spirituality. When I say wealth, so if I have the freedom to do the things that I want to do, and that involves money, if I have the freedom to speak, the freedom to create, the freedom to do things because I'm healthy, so it's kind of a ladder for me to achieve the wholeness of freedom and spirituality, and wealth is kind of the ladder or the tool for me to embrace it. So it's for me it's really kind of it's not it's the same. It's almost like vibrating in the same vibration for me, because when I say wealth, I'm not only speaking about money, but it involves money, right? It involves my ideas, it involves my character, my aura, my energy, my consciousness. And that kind of correlates to my spirituality, what my spirit actually wants to do in the moment, kinds of speaks of freedom. So where am I right now in my journey? I feel like if I gauge it 1 to 10, I feel like at some tools of it, like the wealth aspect, for example, when it say thoughts and ideas, I'm kind of an 8. Money kind of 7 or 6, you know. So, but I'm very well aware that it's kind of a journey, and it's interesting to see that it's not one container for me. It's almost like this big containers that I kind of balancing whatever I need or whatever I portray in that kind of situation. So it's yeah, that's where I am right now.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
It's nice to hear how you put the wealth as a ladder to freedom and all
How it changed over time.
Yeah, so this is an interesting place to be, and of course we know that this is one of the possible places to be. Hopefully with this sharing we will shed some light on how nuanced actually this question is, and how hopefully by the end of the session it will have a wider, you will all have a wider understanding where we can have like partially limiting beliefs and partially, you know, like things that slow us down in our advancement. But this is one common way to put these things together, that for my freedom I need wealth. So it's almost like a tool to get to the freedom. It's good, but it's not full picture. But thank you for sharing. We will see what else is involved there. What else is involved in that picture?
So, well, let's begin. Let's dive in, and to really understand what do we mean by wealth and what do we mean by spirituality. Let's see what comes under this term wealth. Of course, we know the word, and the first thing that comes in mind is, as Lisa said, stacks of gold or
what Vatican Bank.
Vatican Bank is what comes first in mind. But we need to understand that, you know, in 2020 it's a sort of automatic and little outdated association of this term, because of course money is just one part of what comes under wealth. Then there's health, then there is friends, then there's a family, community, fresh air. All of that is wealth. So to put it simple, wealth is how far what is the territory that we cover in material world. That's our wealth. How far we have impact on a physical reality. This is the wealth.
Also, how fully are we living? How fully engaged we are in life. So when we say material, we mean body, wealth, health, environment, planet, animals, little lambs, everything that is material expression of life. And Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when we say that this is a territory that you cover, your wealth is how much territory you cover. It means that this is what you have plus the possibility that you are able to use at any given moment, the freedom to travel or not, the house that you live, the possibility to have the house as you like it, or what is available. So wealth is the extent in which you are free to manipulate with physical reality. For example, Vatican might have a lot of like stationary wealth, but you know, they don't cover much of ground by living.
And we don't call it wealth in their case. In their case, we call it accumulated power. They did that for power. It's not. They did not do this for wealth. They need power in order to kind of have political moves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't even call that wealth.
I think at this stage, like, we can redefine the word wealth by saying that it's a dynamic force of expression in a physical world. It's a dynamic expression. It's how you roll out yourself in life. And then spirituality, of course, being now very hype word, what it actually means is how aware are you of yourself at any given moment in this space and time. It's nothing more. It's not how many books you have read, how many kind of enlightened terms you use, or how many prayers you do per day. It's all about how much aware are you. If you need 20 prayers per day to be aware of yourself, well, that's what you need. If you can just, you know,
align with the two sources,
understand yourself as a being in this moment, as a part of the universe and the planet and the whole ecosystem as such, there's nothing more to spirituality than just this simple awareness of your presence on earth and your impact through your actions. So when we understand that wealth and spirituality is how aware are you of the energy that flows through you, this is where it becomes interesting, because then you have a little control over how you want it to flow. Until that moment, it seems random. It seems that it's happening to you. Opportunities are there or are not there for you. People are supportive or unsupportive. But it seems like these situations are somehow there or not there, but we don't really know what makes them be there or not. When we turn it to more existential point of view, and we understand that we are the cause of what is there and what is not there, that's where we can start even talking about increasing our presence or changing it for different. We can act upon it. Yeah. So based on this understanding that wealth and spirituality is how life flows through us, through this moment of now, we can examine what we would like it to be and what it is and why. And we will take really synthesis of our year-long sessions with everyone and these main tendencies, years and years and years, and our own questionings, because this topic is so dear to my heart. Because when I was starting my, well, let's say I started my spiritual journey way long time ago, but at the moment when I took the first spiritual healers course in Ubud, I was risking with my own kind of sanity to really have and have this question answered. If I become a spiritual healer, will I look like the person who is completely depleted on all levels? Is it a condition of being spiritual that you're depleted in every way, health and wealth? Because the teacher who gave the course, well, she was not well off in any domains of her life, yet she was super inspiring and believing what she was doing. And I had this huge question. So am I risking to become that? Is it coming together in a package, or do I have any power of turning it around? And I started acutely, attentively observing what happens to people when they shift from, purely material existence to spiritual, and after. And I've been looking really under microscope every person that, and I've met, if not millions, really thousands of people that have come through my guest house sessions, friends, acquaintances, and everybody has been screened by my microscope to see where they are at, to really draw a graph what happens to people. So, that's why I'm telling that I haven't read the subject in a book 2 days ago. It's been in the main field of my attention for the past 7 years straight, every day. And my passion about the subject, and our passion, actually common passion about the subject, is because I understand that the one thing that prevents people who are sort of sitting on the fence between wanting to live the life of their dreams and not daring to do it is exactly this question. If I pursue the path of my heart, will I become poor? Will I be able to sustain my family? We hear it. We heard it a week ago. We heard it 5 days ago. It's always there.
And we hear it in another way as well. If we have business clients who are super successful in business but not optimal, if they come to us, they're scared to even hear the word spiritual, because they have learned such variety of BS inputs of what spiritual is that they don't want to be anywhere near it. So we have to actually develop the language that doesn't even involve these terms, and to really work purely with energy and retune their energy, just reroute how they use their energy, and then it's possible for them to understand. But that's how dangerous spirituality as a word is. It will throw away all of your business clients. You'll have only, hippie clients if you call it spirituality. So it's really, really funny.
And we really have to somehow wrap it in a way if we want to be understood in the business realms. But actually, when
they need that help, though. They really need it.
They know how to appreciate it, because when we understand that the spirituality is awareness of the energy flowing through us, that's all there is, and it makes it much more universal, let's say so.
Yeah.
So what is there? Taking it back to those 7-8 years ago when I dreaded becoming hippie after that spiritual healers course, and when the teacher said that actually she was psychic, so she predicted that I will be working with people, telling them everything about their future, and it will be very successful. And I was laughing out loud because I said, well, this is really not possible. Plus, I'm not gonna do it for any sort of business purposes. Yet I have to say that somehow it has happened.
That's what we ended up doing.
But I had always this dread of losing the thread with the actual material expression. And I know that if my instinct told to not release any material expression that went alongside with my spiritual explorations, well, then now I can understand that I was 100% right to keep both running at the same time. So let's say 2 guest houses alongside with spiritual help for people. That turned out to be a very, very good combination, I would say.
Because that material, the business aspect, was really like a mirror how well you were doing in the spiritual realm, right?
So I realized over years that my spiritual journey was mapped to my physical income, so it increasing or decreasing actually mirrored how well I was doing on my energetic level, and how well that energy was flowing through me, and directly seeing any changes made on me reflecting in my business was the greatest teacher, hands-on, practical experience, an example of how I could control my business by controlling myself. And it worked, we'd say, okay, one country is a coincidence, but that bouncing in two countries and working exact same way really taught a little bit of, I gathered the proofs, I gathered my proofs, and whoever kind of followed a little bit that same path also proved to be successful in that.
Yeah.
So then, given that wealth is this territory that we cover in the material world, we have to understand how that energy works through us to begin with. Because we have had many, let's say, Eastern teachings and Indian philosophies and yogic perspectives, which are, at least 2,000 years old, and which are mapped pretty much to what
the world was back then.
Yeah, what the world was back then, and what people needed for purely internal upgrades. So now this knowledge that was actually reserved for yogis has seeped into our everyday life, mixed with somebody's interpretation about it, mixed with salted on the top with somebody's wanting to be original kind of tips, and mixed with this American influence of I got the truth, and I'm successful by selling the truth. So they get really very rich by selling the books about how to make money. And the advice is, if you want to make money, sell the book about how to make money. So you have, Miriam, exactly. We'll get to that. And so you see, we're living in a mix of where all this knowledge is kind of freely standing there and available for us, but without much instructions. It was not available for many times, and it was passed on through the, a little bit mystery schools and so on. And now suddenly it's all there, and we sometimes lack of discernment and as to what to believe in and what to choose. So after many years of trial and error, we understood that the only really obvious thing, and this goes along to what Miriam is saying, when we allow full wealth in whatever way, enlightenment is around the corner. Yes, that wealth and spirituality is our full expression as human beings in this world. Let's say, by being aware and engaging in life with the awareness, this is how we fulfill our capacity as human beings. If we were not supposed to do things in material world, we wouldn't have bodies, we wouldn't have two hands, and we wouldn't have the drive to create and make. So if we follow what our basic design of a human body is, we understand that we are not like the earthworms, that is one digestive tube, eat, excrete, and procreate. Otherwise we would just be tubes. We don't need sophisticated hands for that. And these sophisticated hands are actually made to create, to do, to play music, to express touch, and to do many more. So this is all the capacity that we have been given to impact the material world.
To play with it, to create and play with it.
To engage with it. With or without lasting consequences, but at least to engage in it. So from whichever way we take it, either a conscious creating wealth which brings us to enlightenment, or getting first to the understanding and then going back to material world, it ties into our story of labyrinth of the last session, where first you get your thinking and understanding right about how the energies flow, and then you go back and
apply
anchor it.
And the reason why it's like this, how we even started, is we were taught something during schooling, during, you know, growing up, during our first years in professional life. We were taught something. So we were partially creating, but the result was not full inner fulfillment. So that's why we chose spirituality, is to understand what are these laws that actually work under the surface, and then to replug them in a way that now we can play again, but we play without the rules of those who have kind of stirred us into the direction that wasn't fulfilling. So now we understand how it works. Now we go back to work, but now we work with the creation that actually is fully fulfilling. So that's what we want to do.
And the actual living people, spiritual people that we know, who have really understood significant things about themselves, well, actually we have spiritual communities where I remember this little joke when we go with our friend in Damanur, and she said we go in a shop and we buy our groceries, and you know, the cashier takes money, gives money, and then our friend says, well, you wouldn't believe who the cashier woman is. I said, like, who is that? Oh, she's one of our 3 sages, you know, just that, like one of the top spiritual people of the whole community.
Few times a week works
done,
as a cashier. So,
because from that point of understanding, you understand that it doesn't matter what exactly it is that you do. It doesn't have to be noble. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to rebuild it anew. You know, you do whatever needs to be done in any given circumstances, but with full inner surrender and freedom. There's no obligation or mental construct around it. So then let's maybe look at how those energies flow, because that will explain the chapter about what stands on the way of.
So we will look how the energies flow, and then we will look at those things that are our misconceptions and what keeps us away from actually doing this right in our lives. So you want to draw a little?
I think let's draw. It will be more clear than waving in the air.
Here's your paper. Here is us.
Okay. So let's get to our little person that's standing there in the middle. So a little happy person that let's say it's a girl. So when we come into physical existence, so we're more spirit than matter in some ways. It's a little bit complex process, but
at birth.
But at birth, so we receive our material vessel to fill with divine energy. So of course, the science has still not caught up with what makes us alive, but well, we do somehow know what makes us alive is that this body that is made of earth, of a physical matter, even just at birth, is made alive by the life force, which is prana, is the universal ether that animates us, and every being there is, it just flows through us and comes in our system from. Actually, the babies have this very sensitive little open spot, so that's not solid for some time. So the prana comes up like this and goes down.
Prana or akasha or ether, however you want to call it.
Energizing all the chakras, energy centers one by one, till going out through the feet. Being grounded into the earth receiving that energy, feeds it back to us. Well, let's say earth in some loop feeds it back to us as nourishment to enhance our physical vessel. And then we, on a parallel circuit, release the information back into where the energy came from at the beginning. We release our, let's say, lived experience back into unified field of information, which is, well, we can call it Akash, ether, whatever is more familiar to you.
Akashic records, yeah.
It's an universal field of information that every thought, ever thought, every action ever done is sort of registered in this it's infinite
database.
Field of database, yeah. So even the simple information about how you felt today about the weather, it's in the morning, throughout the day, of course, it's an infinite loop. But when you receive this, let's say, cosmic life energy, the prana, it goes through your system, gets entangled with your thoughts, feelings, emotions, etc. Let's say if the frequency of the prana is pure light and it looks like this, then while going through, zigzagging through your system, thoughts, emotions, everything, by the time it goes out, it has received information from you, and it reaches the earth with, already different kind of beat. And then it goes back from the earth to Akash and is saved there as an embodied experience, yeah, as an information. So basically what do we do through our bodies? We transform. We're transformers of one universal kind of energy, adding an information to it. And so it goes in the loops, and it's this toroidal field, and this is what keeps us alive. If that stops, then we stop existing as a physical person.
So it's almost like that we are transformers of that energy. It comes in one way, in one frequency, and it outputs through our thoughts, through our feelings, through our actions, into whatever has been done, thought, felt, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So there has been so much around and about it, but in those very cryptical and mystical ways, about nadis, about meridians, about kundalini, about serpent rising, and all that. Yes, we are a lab. We're an alchemical lab, and yes, all those energy centers and the pineal gland and pituitary gland, they're all parts of transformer. It's exactly like a radio, like the box of a radio, as it was before, transforms the waves of sound, impulses into a sound or into an image as a TV. So the same is what we do with this kind of plain energy that enters us and goes out as transformed information. So why is this important? Because one of the main misconceptions about yoga, kundalini, and energy and spirituality all mixed up in one uncertain understanding is that we somehow came to believe that we have to send the energy of the earth, we have to rise it up through our spine and release it through the crown chakra. This is what we hear the most, and this is what we read the most about. Where actually, I have really observed people who stick to this idea, and I have to say that they are really not healthy. They lose health, they lose material connection of any sort. And I was long time, wondering how can it be? The more the people are doing tantra and pranic this and kundalini that, the more they do that, the more depleted they get in every way. Or at least, life seems to be off balance emotionally or somehow like that. So I really kept this question in mind. Why specifically this drawing energy in and sending it somehow out creates this strange situation? And why are the people who just, you know, plainly without any kundalini, any understanding, just do things, why it works, you know? So it all made sense when a little bit controversial Russian guru put it in a very, very simple way, saying that, you know, universe does not need your energy. It doesn't, like, you know, the divine wants to live. It doesn't want to receive itself back. Like, you stop with your kundalinis and start, you know, start living, start doing. I mean, start enjoying life, for God's sake.
So the divine has enough energy.
Say, like,
they have poured it into you. Do something with it and kind of create with it. Like, don't send it back.
Yeah,
like, return to the sender.
I want. Yeah. So of course the life is seeking expansion and not retracting itself back. It's almost like you know, everything in nature, if you observe carefully, you will agree that everything in nature is expanding, growing. Any mushroom, weed, tree, everything is looking to grow more and to cover more
not
territory.
Shrinking.
It's not shrinking
it shrinks
itself
before death.
Yeah. So if nothing in nature, nothing that you can see of a living being is wanting to shrink, so why would we? So this was such a shocking, you know, understanding for me. Yeah, like, we don't want to return the energy to the sender, where, and this is the main, really misconception of all spiritual energy flow, that we think that we draw from the earth and we send it through our spine up, where actually what we do through the breath, we draw it in, we bring it down. This is Tai Chi, Qigong, all that, yeah. You bring it down, you save it here, you actively
you save it in the hara.
Take the energy, take the vital force, and if you have a capacity to store it, you really store it, and then you use at will. If you don't have a capacity to store it, at least when you draw it in, you have almost obligation to do something with it, to express it immediately.
Because if you don't, energy.
If you don't, for some reason, and we will see, we'll come back to where it can get stuck. If you receive this energy and you have no capacity to consciously store it in your daitian, let's say, because you don't know how to, or you are not aware that you have a daitian and all that, then, and plus you don't give it to the earth, you don't make something out of it.
You don't create something immediately with it.
Something with it. It returns back to you, not even to the universe. It returns back into your body and starts rotting. By rotting, we mean it's the energy that makes you restless, anxious. It's this excess potential that is trapped in the body and seeks expression. So then it, you know, can find expression through anger or some sort of outburst or any other.
Or through illness.
Or through illness, if it's constantly being kept in the body and not expressed. So after some time, it really creates a stagnation in energy centers because they are overloaded and they haven't had this, you know, fluid movement in and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah, it's a potential energy. It's a potential energy because, you know, energy is just energy. It doesn't have any flavor. It comes in without flavor. It's for you to use it and transform it in something. If you don't, if you have capacity to store good, you will have, then you can do one like big thing later. It's like money. You can spend it straight away as it comes in, or you can store it for later and then buy something big. Same thing with the energy. And so this grounding thing, will come to it, is hyper important element in order to keep and create and enhance health and wealth, both.
And grounding, not literally grounding, not really taking into the ground, but doing something material, something concrete with it. That's what we mean by grounding.
Yeah.
Doing something with it.
And you can imagine actually that, okay, Daitian is one good place where to store it.
If you know how. This is actually years of practice. It's not easy.
And
we are not really naturally able to store it.
yeah, and if there's one thing to really practice and understand is how can you keep the energy in your body and use it for later. That's a good skill to have. But other than that, what you can do without any lengthy practice, imagine that you have a box. Let's say, imagine it a box, a sphere, something under your feet. And you have feet. If nothing else, you can imagine this energy. You received inspiration, you were chanting for 2 hours or something. You have generated spiritual energy. Well, at least then, don't send it back to God, but send it right into your own box of foundation under your feet. This is your physical foundation. Anything that you receive, if you cannot act immediately upon it and, let's say, create something, then at least send it to your foundation. Imagine that you're standing on a box and kind of piling up energy in it.
Yeah, but even that, I would say, it's a last resort. I would say do something concrete with it. If nothing else, writing in a journal that says, aha, this is what I'm about to do, and this is going to be my first step, and I'm making a first step. Really, something concrete is always much preferable to actually doing something by imagining something with this energy. Yeah. If you can't, well, okay, then store it into that. But best would be to do something right now about what you want to express.
So the
like concrete step.
And the nature has taken care of this balance, like for average person that's not overly into invisible world. The nature has taken care of that balance by actually providing a lot of physical activities to do, lots of physical, even sports. So a normal person has more balanced sides, I would say. Without even knowing, because otherwise it would create problems straight away. But when we are on spiritual journey, so we're more accessible, we're drawing in more of this prana, more of spiritual energy, because we're conscious of it, then actually more we draw in, more we would have to let out as well.
And this is really important. You have obligation to do this. If you have called for something in your life, you have called for help to create a certain outcome, you have called help to, for example, create a healing center or whatever you are about to do, and you have received this energy, you really now have obligation to do something with it. It's not like, I called it, it came, and now I'm not going to do anything with it. If you do, this is really what's creating that disbalance. And that's where we disconnect from the natural flow of energy. And that's where we start being on that purely spiritual path where we don't do anything. The body enters almost in a type of hibernation.
A lethargy.
So, you have called it once, you've done nothing with it. You've called it twice, you've done nothing with it. Now we have unrealized potential that's in the body, and the debt is being collected, and the debt has to be paid either through actually then later kind of doing something to overcome it, or by really accumulated illness. So this is a serious disbalance of energy. If we call something and don't do anything about it.
It looks like this calling in something means you receive, let's say, a certain amount of energy. Imagine like a glass of water that fills you till here. Yeah? And you say, okay, but I don't know, I'm not sure, all that.
I'll do it later.
I need more precision, I need more clarity, I need to wait more, I need a sign from the universe. So then you receive next level and next level till you are literally full with this potential to act, and you don't act upon it. So then this energy, because it's not being used, starts acting weird. It really starts creating too much electricity in your body.
It looks for the way out.
It looks for a way of expression, and a little motorbike accident does release it, at least opens a hole so some of it can spill out. A little shock or emotional outburst also opens a hole for it to seep out. And like this, like a little broken machine, we can function for quite some time, that we're receiving the energy, not using it for what it was meant for, but creating weird situations where it breaks out in random ways, because we cannot stay with it.
So this is a typical situation of the healers, for example, who call in a lot of energy and then don't really have a way to apply it in the right way. So they got either overweight, or they get, chronically sick, or get some other condition. We have seen it many, many times. A lot of energy that's unused.
And the next, especially for healers, it applies really mostly uniquely for healers, that when you give a healing to someone, and this someone is already full with other healers' advices that he has not acted upon, and you are trying to ground yourself through this person that's already full
to heal them.
Imagine that energy also bounces back to you and becomes your problem to solve, because they are not
ready to receive the healing.
So they couldn't ground your energy. If they could ground your energy, you would receive a fresh one even more. That's why when, sometimes we're a little bit maybe harsh, asking our people, are you ready for a session? Are you ready to receive it full on? Do you have space for it?
Well, we also measure it. We don't even trust anymore. We measure if a person is ready to receive our session. If not, we don't even engage, because we understand that this is then our liability. You take all on to this person's karma. So
and transmute their stuck energy. And we have seen it so clearly in our lives. So that's also being careful. When you give energy to someone who is not ready to receive, you'll have it right back. Plus their karma.
So,
so is it a little bit clear so far how it's from top down, the main movement of energy, and how it's seeking expression in material world? So spirituality and wealth, it's going literally like that.
Lisa has a question. Lisa.
Okay, so do you guys know about the Javanese healer who like he does acupuncture with his hands, and he the same exactly with how you describe with his energy center, but his battery is like here and here. At this point here. So what he does, he actually can light paper with his hands. So what I like with you guys saying, with people calling this in, not knowing where to put it, that guy has been in a deep state of practice and meditation for many decades to get to that point. But being able to be in that position, like you're saying, without calling it in, not knowing where to put it, it just ends up putrefying in your body, exiting in the wrong ways. But to have a specific, like having a storage space without having a storage space, so to speak.
That storage at least is your foundation, at least you dedicate into your physical expression on earth, this box, because this does take, it's super refined energy. It takes a skill, because you have to direct it with your mind, and that's not an easy thing to grasp. It really takes some practice to be able to
with your mind
command it there,
and also to kind of have the awareness of exactly the frequency of how it feels to store it there and to keep it, because if you're not really consciously keeping it,
It's gonna
then
just
it's going to
seep out.
seep out as in these other people who unconsciously do it. So it's actually really a practice. It is,
It's a
like
whole
you say, the guy
practice
has
that keeps
practiced
there.
it for decades. It's not an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Much easier is you call the energy in, you do something with it. We
Mm-hmm.
all know how to do that. You do something with it, and then you feel like you're surfing, like the wave has come, you surf the wave, and you have this inspiration, you have energy, and you do it.
Mm-hmm. Inspiration followed by action is exactly this moment. You received the pure energy, divine energy. You acted immediately upon it. Oh, the result is fantastic. It was easy, joyful, and beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
So this is a taste of a perfect flow. Inspiration, action.
And
If you
that's why we
don't act
say,
on inspiration,
yeah.
then you better know where it goes. Otherwise, it will be like turmoiling here inside.
We went very much in detail in our course about making a wish and making it happen in those steps of manifestation. Literally, the last step of manifestation is physical action, because that's one of the problems of purely spiritual approach. They say, okay, well, the universe will bring it. It's all yours. Abundance is, or ask and it's given. Well, it's given, but you have to do something with it. If it's given and you do nothing with it, well, it's also, it seeped between the fingers and got out.
Because with you guys saying that has actually sat with me for when you said it sat with me for a long time with this. Oh my God! If you ask and you're not committed to receiving and acting, you've got to be prepared. It's
Exactly.
But yeah,
Exactly. And we
and
know
it's
it.
almost like, oh my gosh, I can't ask because I don't know if I'm prepared. Oh my gosh.
but prepared just means you understand that you also have responsibility to do a part of it. Universe is not going to do it for you. Not that it doesn't want. It can't. That's why they created
doesn't
us
have
with
hands.
bodies. Because we are literally God's hands. So the God, he doesn't have hands. He's in the realms that don't intersect with material. Well, that's why he created hands. So we do something with those hands.
Mm-hmm. So this is really one of the main keys to material success, is acting upon your ideas, visions, wishes, at least somehow, at least a little bit, at least in that direction.
One step at a time, at least one step, yeah?
Yeah, one step at a time, but something, yeah? And be careful what you call in if you're not ready to, or you don't know where to put that energy if you don't act upon it. Like, I mean, I can fill 10 pages with what happened to me when I didn't do, and I have learned it the hard way, but absolutely clear proof that you don't want to recycle your own unused potential, really. It's too much of an effort.
It would be much easier if you do something about it. What you asked, it's not more difficult than really do with that energy the first step that you can see at this moment. Later you'll see more steps, but now do at least the step that you can see. That's all that's really needed.
So that the energy has a promise of outlet, and it doesn't have to kind of stagnate.
So let's maybe go into the main keys
so
of what's standing in the way.
We have summarized 7 points, 7 main limitations to this flow of energy. So that recapping, now you understand that the movement is from top down, and wealth and spirituality is the divine energy seeking its expression in material world.
So spirituality part is understanding this, and wealth is now expressing yourself in the material world, living life fully.
So we have noticed one tendency, that people who are beginning the spiritual journey, as Kat, you mentioned, are always, no, I don't need, I'll be provided, I know it will come. So there's this discourse, which is of course appropriate for that stage of evolution, of surrendering to what may come, detaching, releasing, not wanting, but it's partially also reaction of despair because things are not there. So you have to, tell yourself something, and you say, okay, that means I don't need, I'm detached. And when the same people come sometime later or years later saying, you know what, I still would like to know what's up with money, because it could be useful at least for paying visas or being able to move between countries. So for something it really needs. So what's up with money? And that's where we have compiled these 7 most common
obstacles
to
or
this,
keys to unlock this flow.
To this vertical flow that would bring any level of prosperity that you would wish for. Yeah. So we have a new, fresh little person, and we will map on this person. It will be a little bit
now
better.
It's a man with long hair, right?
Yes. We always identify with ourselves, so I'll put more hair on my head in that case. Voila. So we have this person. Let's draw also feet, because here it will matter. And standing on the ground. So first limit, which is very obvious, it's our old friend, we know all about it, yet we still have it all over, is beliefs and fears.
Maybe you can put number 1 there.
Would you say something about it?
Well, fears and beliefs are many, and most profound one is fear of death, and that could include fear of death if I become rich and then everybody is going to kind of try to rob me, or fear of success, fear of not having enough, like Kat, you said, like fear of losing freedom and then kind of having to provide for the freedom, and all of these things are animating this this aspect. So we are acting on the fears and actually trying to solve them somehow, and they stand in a way of pure expression of playfulness, child's playfulness with the energy that we receive, and creating out of pure pleasure of playfulness without any reason. Freedom comes as a consequence. We have already created something new, we have already engaged with life, we have already expressed our beautiful creation, and as a consequence people love it and they love paying for it, and then we get freedom comes as a natural consequence. We did not go to solve our problem of freedom, and that's why we did these things. So this is part of the beliefs and fears that we are not born free and stuff like that. And of course all of our institutions are clamoring to tell us that we owe them something. We are not born free. We owe them rent, we owe them taxes, we owe them this or that, whereas in reality we don't owe anything to anyone. We are actually completely free. This is all the mapping, and we have in our work understood that there are at least 18 mind frames. If you want to see what they are, go to our astronaut helmet episode. There are 18 mind frames that created those fears, and once that we pierce through them, then we are complete free expression of the divine. So but let's say what happens with the energy, in those beliefs. So if we're supposed to have this movement, I'll try to block the sun because it's not visible. Yeah, you go ahead. So look, when you have beliefs, let's say belief, I don't need money, attachment creates suffering, all those are beliefs that are reaction to just being normal about the wealth and living in a nice, comfortable environment. So all sorts of beliefs
beliefs of poverty or beliefs of not needing anything, they all create this, the energy cannot ground and it stays frozen. Beliefs and fears, they freeze the potential and kind of store it in patches somewhere in the body. And if it's according to what type of fear it is, it could be that a fear of being killed because you are rich, or being looked in some strange ways if you have money, will accumulate. According to the fear, it will accumulate in some part of the body or some organ. So the belief of not being deserving enough of wealth or money will create, let's say, tension in the shoulders. So this is how that belief and fear overlay actually creates frozen parts of our body. And of course it cannot express in the appropriate way, and that whole opportunity will be denied. It will just seem to not come. So
okay, beliefs and fears, we know
Yeah.
it's basic.
And you know all about it.
The next one
Number 2 is
being ungrounded, ungroundedness. So what this means is really tuning more than doing. So being more in the divine realms, meditating and calling in, chanting, kirtan, stuff like that, but then
devotional
doing nothing in the material. So we don't ground that energy. So we mentioned it now when we explained what it really means.
Mm-hmm. But also what it means, it's a healthy root chakra. Yeah, it's a healthy root chakra that connects us to the universal network of other people. When we seem to be disconnected or like we don't have opportunities, nobody is calling us in for some work or something. We're all like trees. Yeah, we have seen documentaries and everything about trees, how they're
like disconnected
through
people.
the roots.
Yes, exactly.
Well, yes, we are also connected through our roots to the network of where all other beings reside. We're connected to the natural forces, to the nature, to spirits. Well, anything that has to do with material world goes through our connection through the earth network. So when we have ungrounded root chakra, wounded or whatever, stuck, not flowing, however you want to call it, when this energy coming in cannot pass successfully through the first chakra, then you are completely off access to other people, earth intelligence, nourishment, even your digestion and all body processes become disturbed.
Really funny. You sit in the restaurant and sometimes the waiters don't really see you. Or, it's literally these people who are so plugged into these higher realms, it's almost like they're semi-transparent. But for example, they would have no business opportunity at the airport. For example, if somebody comes and say, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, let's do business together. Conversely, people who have very much rooted chakra, you can see them that they, for example, travel in business class, and they are sometimes in those airport business lounges, and they have already kind of learned to recognize themselves because that's where business opportunities are. It's just an illustration of how it might look.
It's a networking, but you are in a network with all material existence and physical reality. So without that, the first chakra is the one that transforms divine energy into a compatible energy to make the deals in a physical world. Even if you want to find a house or make a simple contract or anything in that realm, well, it has to come in a compatible frequency. If you are not in a compatible frequency, you are missing out and it's happening on parallel.
So that's the second one, ungroundedness.
And which
as
means
a key.
non-engagement in life. Yeah.
So that's the key number 2. Key number 3 is this balance in polarity, inner masculine versus inner feminine. And yin stronger than yang, yeah? So pretty much we can say that most of the Ubud has this. It's like more yin than yang. The whole Ubud is running on, you know, and of course we know why, because they have had overexpressed their masculine expressions while they're in the business world, and now they are activating their inner feminine. But there's a point to say, okay, well, we activated, let's go back to the center and kind of rebalance the two.
Mm-hmm. So the way it looks, you know, we have one side is masculine, one side is feminine. So when we are working from our feminine side, so we're receiving literally the divine guidance, inspiration. So we're reaching out for more of this divine energy. And, you know, Ubud people, you know how it is, the goddess circles and everything about activating divine feminine, etc. So which is attempt for starving feminine polarity to get back to at least a normal size.
And it's a great during the healing process. Of course,
great.
it's needed phase.
But if we dwell in this for too long, well, what happens? That goddess is actually becoming more and more etheric and stops radiating as a woman and is not even seen as a woman anymore, because it's an ungrounded feminine energy. So what would need to be done is to at the same time activate the masculine energy that makes something of that goddess business concrete, yeah, acts upon it, and, you know, keeps some sort of little framework around it, because the goddesses can fly away for weeks and not even notice that they are ungrounded. So we have a lovely word to call them factories of problems. You know, those are girls who constantly have forgotten their bank card in ATM, they have a scooter or something, they have lost the keys. So that's the typical ungrounded feminine that does not know how to deal with the slightest thing in their physical reality. Because of this is considered we have to break the masculine. It's a little bit anti-attacking also the masculine part. So this balance is a huge obstacle for action in the physical reality.
This goes for both men and women, of course, because both men and women, we have the masculine and feminine inner part. For men, expression of this would be somebody who is always meditating, has a great ideas. Okay, so we will do this, we will do that, but they lack willpower to actually do something with this. So they feel a little lethargic when it comes to doing. There's tired, or there's suddenly something else, or there's suddenly, you know, something that takes us out from the actual physical acting on it.
And usually refuge is more of tuning, more of meditating, more of
another
chanting.
Course, another training, another static dance, or this or that.
This creates a super buzz in the body, because too much of a feminine energy, too much of volatility throws off balance whatever there was before established.
And we have also explained the healthy male-female balance in one of the previous tea. What was the name of it? You remember?
Meet the Parents.
The Meet the Parents, yeah. This is where we talked about what is the inner feminine wanting, what is the inner masculine wanted, and how then we act holistically when these both sides are healthily expressing themselves.
So the healthy way would be to reach out for inspiration, and with that inspiration, well, do something. Put it in an act, or share, or pass it forward. And on the other hand, if it's too much of in a masculine energy, so it's doing, then there should be yin moments of breaking the doing. I'm busy, I have no time, and breaking that pattern by balancing out within moments, tuning in, feeling, contemplating.
What's the right thing to do?
meditating,
What's the right timing? What is the right environment? That depleting earth resources is completely the result of over expressed masculine energy without any feeling of the holistic.
How much is enough?
Yeah. So
or where to stop or when to know, because that how much is enough and where to stop and when to stop is a purely feminine knowledge. Men have no idea how much is enough.
So that's why we started spiritual journey in the first place, because we were all collectively most in the yang. Because even women, they are in the Western societies forced to be men in skirts that are actually, business women. They have to do everything. They have to raise children, have to be successful financially, all this. So again, no balance. So balancing this out gives us that joy of living in the moment, in sync with natural rhythms, and acting when acting is right, not acting out of frustration or wanting something.
Following cycles of life and feeling when there's energy to do and when there's energy to be.
Number 4, we mentioned it a little, we call it unrealized potentials. This is when we called in and we didn't act. This is one aspect of it. So it's all that we called in and then failed to act on, and it has accumulated itself so much that you can think of it as I
am stuck. I am stuck.
Yeah,
that's the feeling of it. I'm stuck.
And it's really missing the natural cycles. You see, for plants they cannot do it. For plants, spring comes, they bloom and they start living. They wake up
with the spring energy.
Summer comes, they flower. Autumn comes, they have fruits. Winter comes, they sleep. But for humans, we have the luxury to say, I don't feel like spring. I want to
stay
be
in winter
and do nothing now. So what happens is, if we do that, then we get into that the nature says, okay, well, this person is hibernating, so he's not going to have any willpower, and it's going to just be whatever we explain that with that energy is going to be accumulated and look for the way to get out.
So this is this energy that fills you with and plus the worst thing about unrealized potential when it's your own, that energy that was given for what it was given when it was given is not valid or not useful for any next thing, because it has a particular quality. So if you didn't act upon a gift or a potential, let's say you called in a gift of being a healer, then you said, but finally it's not for me, or I don't want to do that, yet you have called it in, you have received the gift of seeing people's lives, but you don't use it. Well, not only any next gift will not be given in any easy ways, you'll have to really ask and pray and beg for it, but also that unrealized potential of unhealed people that you draw in it, it's creating a sticky field around, and it glues you to exactly where you are. This is literally a chain on the foot. You cannot move from that point of your life until you have realized that there's some stuck energy, and you have to ground it and just wash it off.
And again, the reason is because we are all connected. When you ask for something, not only you get that. When you ask for something, the whole network of people, there's the whole timeline that is created on which you are already healer, and there are already people who have lined up for the healing and expect to be healed. So all of a sudden you bail out. All of this, it's almost like, it's kind of like a little bit like a suicide. When the person commits suicide, there is whole bunch of loose ends of people that were supposed to interact with that person. They're supposed to have maybe business together, maybe family together, maybe
Children
child
that are
together.
not born, you know.
There's a whole ripple effect of what had not happened because of somebody's decision to cut abruptly the timeline. Well, this is a little bit of that. You influence everyone else who would have been healed by you. So that's why it's such a responsibility to act on what we asked for.
And the only way to get rid of that stuckness is to work it out through a hard physical activity. I mean, dedicate a whole month of yoga just for that, or climb 10 times a mountain, specifying to transmute your unrealized potential. Well, I'm currently working on my unrealized potential by chopping every tree there is in the property. It's really, even the little things tend to accumulate. Something, you know, the famous "I don't feel like you felt like doing something and really starting a new business idea, and then suddenly comes this famous "I don't feel like." That's not really grounded, which throws off the timeline that has been already preparing for you. Well, your "I don't feel like" will cost you a couple of
maybe years of
a
or
couple
months
of
or
up
whatever.
and down the mountain, or if you miss on that physical activity, well, the life will find a way how to outlet that energy. But really being careful with what we call in, because it is actually given. Fortunately, and
It's given, but with the task of doing something with it.
with conditions attached. So unrealized potential, your own, there's a way to measure it. So we do it for ourselves and make sure that
If we have time at the end of the session, we can measure for a couple of you some of these things if you want, so you know where you stand.
But that's not it. Your own unrealized potential, you have somewhat of an idea about, but your mother's and father's unrealized potentials weigh as much in your global success in life. So for guys, for men, if mother was not an accomplished woman, if she didn't have fun in her life, and if she didn't express herself fully as a woman, the man will have this burden of having to earn his money the hard way. And it is always true. You can cross-check. That's
Yeah,
that's
we've
a
learned
basics,
that from many sessions we had.
It's always like the money comes, but with difficulty, with rowing 10 times harder.
We talked about it at Meet the Parents. So yeah, it's
But especially for that money and abundance and wealth, if the father didn't give if he didn't give the foundations for wealth, well, that's a sort of potential in minuses. It's the potential that is not there. You don't have a stepping stone for wealth. But the mother's unrealized potential is active weight, active burden on the top of your earning money or expressing yourself in material world. And of course, it doesn't have to sit there forever.
yeah.
As soon as you realize, we can transmute it. Same thing with physical activity, dedicated physical activity, until it's exhausted. And you know, only descendants can do it for ancestors. You cannot do it for your descendants. You cannot do it for your children. You can do it for your parents. So that's how, when we say that the poverty is passed on for 7 generations, this is about how much it takes to exhaust
until
it
somebody
in
cuts
unconscious
it.
ways.
Yeah. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5 is what we call magical thinking. We mentioned it also just before. So this is this thing, ask and it's given, or abundance is your birthright, or be in tune with the universe and everything will come. Yes, but we have to do something about it.
But and the simplest example is, you know, when monks go with this philosophy, ask and it will be given. When they go in the street to beg for food, to collect the food, how do they go? Do they go with like one outstretched hand? How much food can they hold in one hand? Do they go with both hands joined, or do they take the robe to put the food in? No, they go with a ball, how much they need for a meal. So they go with the ball and collect the Buddha ball full of whatever people might put in it. So when we think that universe will provide, it will. But if you do not have a container where the universe can put that what you need inside, well, how are you expecting to have ever more than what fits in your two bare hands? So if you want more than just enough, and of course going with the flow and living in detachment will provide you always with just enough. So there's this line where you survive perfectly, but there's not 1 cent left or not something too much.
So a lot of our spiritual friends are there. And that's a lot of sessions we have is, but I don't have trouble with surviving, but I always have just enough. Mm-hmm. And that always having just enough is that there wasn't really a proper vessel established to receive that energy. And vessel would be a goal, or, maybe a wish to be worked on, maybe a business that you want to do,
or
maybe a creation, but something that will be material creation in which you are directing that energy. So that's a ball. In allegory of a ball is you have somewhere something concrete in which you will direct this energy. Maybe you can give an example.
So for those of you guys who know my place in Bali, the Green Spirit, the way it worked for me, my ball was my, let's say, guest houses. So literally when I receive someone for a session, I have equivalent, like 3 times more equivalent amount of money in booking, but almost straight away. So the universe provided me with, like, how much I invested in people. It always came back in, let's say, lack of hassle, lack of some immigration troubles, or so I didn't have to spend money in weird ways for unjust purposes or accidents or repairs or something that would be really disturbing, but also it has been paid through the business. So my wealth came. So you remember my sessions were free of charge, so to say, but what actually happened is that every person, in a matter of how much my energy I invested in a person and how well they received it, this is how much it came back in the business. And sometimes the proportions were extraordinary. A person wouldn't be able to pay me as much as I got from these indirect ways, plus different blessings through the airports and tricky situations and, not missing a plane. So the whole kind of well-being is created by this universal paying back what you
through the vessel of the business,
through the vessel of business,
that vessel was needed to be there, otherwise it cannot come through that. And also there had to be the conscious direction and say, okay, I direct this energy to go there, so that the universe actually you have specified how you want this energy to flow.
Mm-hmm. Because I had this huge question whether I want to make my spiritual passion into a business, do I want that to be a business? And the answer was yes, I could, but I don't need it that much of pressure actually. So I decided to keep business as such and have my spiritual kind of passion on the side. And that really worked well, because when you don't depend on your spiritual knowledge to be your business, it opens the network for other people to come and contribute.
And contribute in some other ways that you wouldn't even imagine.
So creating, the magical thinking would be, it will all happen somehow, but without you actually putting those buckets to collect the blessings and opportunities, well, where would it go? You know, it's a simple logics. So at least put the bucket out if you want to collect the rain, otherwise it will go to the ground. So yeah, things don't happen just by themselves. There's physical action involved.
So then we have the next one, and this is an important one, number 6. This is actually a readiness and commitment. That's not really easy, and we have to do it. We have to do this very consciously, to commit to being ready to die now or to live forever, and to detach from that fear of death. To say, okay, I'm ready to die at every moment, and I'm ready to live forever. That's one aspect of it, and another is I'm ready to be completely wealthy and rich materially, and I'm ready to lose everything now. So it's these two detachments that are super important.
They
that one has
actually
to make.
open this column for a straight expression. If you are confident, part of creation, where you understand and accept your own mortality, you are free from a bunch of manipulations and fears that can be infused upon you. And if you are ready to live forever, that means you are saying yes to life and you are engaging with life. You are not afraid to live, to make experiences, to fail, to lose, to create again. So you accept that life is a game where you get, you lose, you create, it's taken away. You accept all aspects of life as part of it. So number 6 is to be ready to die, accepting your own mortality and impermanence of the body and your actions. So not to make big deal out of it that you start something and you'll die and you'll not see the fruits of it. And ready to live forever. That means doing things with as much intensity as you would do, knowing that it will last forever. Like, how would you take care of your body if you knew that you have to keep it for 300 years? But knowing that you're free to shed it at any given moment.
Yeah.
Then being ready to receive, but having no pressure on having to keep it. One business comes,
I have
apart,
this famous example of the person in US that's asking, to see if the other guy is ready to do business. The question was, have you ever gone bankrupt? And the guy said, no, I've never got bankrupt. So the answer was, well, then you're not ready to do business with me. Because what was needed is to really go bankrupt to see that it's really a business strategy. Sometimes you do it because of the strategy. You kind of let this business fail in order to kind of reallocate this to another, in another direction, and it's not a big deal. Nothing is going to happen. We recreate with these two hands everything again like we did many times before. So that readiness brings enormous freshness in what we can create in life.
Yeah.
Miriam had a question.
So, is giving session for free doesn't that make it out of balance for the one who is receiving the session? It is a slippery slope. I had my reasons because I didn't want to put any pressure on my ability to deliver absolutely non-detached and pure help and information. And at that point in history,
we don't do that anymore. But then it was right for Evia.
It was needed for many reasons, and also to allow people who otherwise wouldn't be able to. It took away pressure from the receiving end and from the giving end for the process to be absolutely much deeper and meaningful, because there was no obstacle of money involved.
But there was a clear redirection of energy into the property, so it wasn't that it was for free. Actually, it was charged through what happens in a business.
But I was always very careful. So when the person, they didn't necessarily know, it was not written come for free. Yeah, it didn't, it didn't appear that way. But the person, when asking how much shall I pay, I said, well, this is my contribution to humanity at this point. But the only thing I ask you is to do something with it. So my only requirement, after I have given all my soul and heart for 2 hours for a person, was to respect the fact and to do something with it. Those who didn't, I paid the price. They paid even greater price because they have received somebody's precious life energy, undivided attention for 2 hours, and they didn't act upon it. Imagine what karma that creates, that you do not pay and you do not act upon it, although you have been clearly instructed to pay it forward or pass it on or do something with it. Those who did, they skyrocketed. Literally, they had huge transformation from
We have filmmakers that are making movies. We have people who have started their schools. It was like amazing results,
those
really.
who used it got propelled. Those who didn't, well, I had to pay a hard price for them being stuck, and they got even more stuck because of this accumulated energy plus karma.
And this was part of the learning. Now we know more how it operates because we know the fine. Well, we understand that Evie also had to pay for it, and firsthand, not like so. Not necessarily we knew that back then.
It's giving session for free is a very bad deal for both persons if it doesn't go somewhere. If the other person grounds the energy, you'll receive it tenfold from completely different direction. If the person doesn't receive it properly and doesn't ground your energy, it can be also a friend. It doesn't need to be a session. If you give help to a person, if you give advice to a person and they don't act upon it, you will have to recycle that energy.
So you take onto their karma.
To someone who is not ready to hear. You know those hopeless cases that are stuck and getting stucker with every new advice they get? Well, that's why. Because they didn't act upon it. They're just piling up these unrealized advices. So
and the other question,
this distinction being clear, you can totally do it, or other.
Number 6, we said, is readiness to die tomorrow or live forever, and readiness to lose everything or become super wealthy. So it's detachment from these two fears. That's what's number 6. Detachment from fear of death and detachment from fear of poverty. And then number 7, and the final one, this is this deals with, actually, interestingly, food and parasites, but food, the right food that we eat, and in very unexpected ways. Maybe you go ahead.
Yeah, because the food, we know the common trend of when you get out of your corporate past life or some sort of what we call the matrixy living, what comes with it is sudden detachment from meat and going raw, vegan or light or something like this. This is a good way to go when you want to lighten your energies and purify your field to be more receptive and more attuned to subtle worlds. When you eat plant-based food, you attune to the the more refined realms of the nature spirits, and you're more available for that kind of information and intuition to come. You're more clear, you're more open to invisible realms. When you eat more heavy food, I would say, plus meat and bread and things like that, it seems like your intuition is diminishing, and all accent comes. You feel the body is more heavy. You feel more grounded or heavy, depending on what it is really that you eat. So sometimes after sessions, we couldn't understand, when we have spent a huge amounts of energy, why we have this hunger of wolf. We could eat everything at once, and it's because this void, by generating a huge amounts of spiritual energy, it needs to be grounded somehow immediately. If you can't build the house right then and there, or you can't do 3 hours on the sport on the top of it. At least you can eat something really, really solid. So we throw ourselves on cheeses, we go with slabs of parmesan, and and then we feel like, oh, did we really have to do that? And and then we're guilt tripping a little bit about those parmesan kilos and all that. And I couldn't, put a finger on it. It's like, we do understand it's not good for us. We don't eat bread. We say yuck to all heavy foods. And still, there are moments that we just, we become, like predators, and we attack everything we can. And the reason for that is that this is the fastest way to ground energy. When you feel hungry after a session, after a spiritual event, after something uplifting, it's simply that your system screams for, please
ground me.
Ground me.
Yeah.
And don't let that moment fly away. Really, one way or the other. And food is the easiest one. Mm-hmm. If you can't handle meat, root vegetables,
roots, carrots, and
nuts, beetroot, potatoes. Of course, check with your own system, but the idea is that food actually can ground something. And when you are up for some serious project that will involve, let's say you want to build a community or retreat center or some quite elaborate business plan in material world, well, you'll have to eat some sort of meat for that period of time, and you'll actually understand that it's beyond the mental ideas of good and bad and this and that. But you will have to have this extra connection to the material world through food if you want to have extensive presence in the physical realm. Otherwise, it's like my sister says, those spiritual people from parallel realities, they don't need to eat, meaning me, and she is true in some ways, and let's say material successful people do have solid food.
So it's important
finding a balance in that.
Have that grounding food ready so that we don't attack breads and cheeses or whatever is available but unhealthy. So we have to have a little bit of a plan what we're going to be eating to ground something and what we're going to be eating if we are channeling something, so that you have a food that's already ready for the given purpose. And of course, a lot of the decisions about what we take as food and what we crave are the manner of parasites that we carry. So if we carry the parasites that actually feed on cheese or on bread, well, we will think I crave bread. But what actually happens is the parasites that want to feed on that type of food are sending those signals so that we eat more bread or that we eat cheese. So the first step in establishing healthy nutrition is detox. So detoxing completely so that you are not influenced what you're kind of craving to eat by the inner parasites. Those parasites are definitely one of those 18 frames that we talked about that are co-creating decisions with us. So there you go. These are the seven keys, really. It seems like much, but they're very connected. And I mean, think about all of them and explore where you are in life with all of them. In our sessions, we definitely clear all of them. And it's important to kind of see the scope, what is there. What is there to align and to fine-tune. It's really like fine-tuning the car, like it can still run if you give it diesel or whatever else, but if it's like a petrol car, well, you put the right food in there. So it's
learning to read your reality when you see that somehow things are not connecting quite right or nothing is really happening in your life. Then you can look in one of these and say, okay, where we have a chart for that. So for example, I found a surprising obstacle for myself, and working on that.
Uh-huh.
It's good to be aware of what's going on in your life and not to let it sit for a long time in this in this intermediate state. Yeah, I can share. Well, my current, as soon as I made the chart, I discovered that my current obstacle is fear of death, and I was like, what? I'm the first person ready to die next minute. But actually, it's a fear of death of past lives that, being rich can be deadly. Tsars and or just rich people in the wrong time of history have always been very vulnerable to having
attacks.
To attacks. Even now, someone who has more is always sort of exposed and sort of a prey. So some past life dying because of being rich can really send ripples out to even this life, where it associated of being deadly or dangerous to be rich. So that's another possibility.
And when we measured, for me, it was about grounding. So what I'm habitually doing is actually doing immediately now the first step. Whatever comes is an idea, concrete first step during the same day, not even waiting for tomorrow. So, but for both of us, it's like random. We didn't know that this is, currently what was missing, and this is the way to deal with it. To actually measure and see which one is your energy leaking point. So there you go. These are the 7 keys that open the door for actually really having both spirituality and wealth, and actually working with both, and wealth and health and spirituality.
Because health, I was always thinking, okay,
the same thing.
Health, we can, to some extent, we can take care of our health without money, but then if you can add money to enhance your health, it always helps.
Well, not to mention that, like, really, having a decent life conditions, why not? And creating out of pure inspiration.
Yeah, so Miriam, we check it as always, and if you guys want to just have a sneak peek in what's your current obstacle to wealth, send in your request, and we'll check it for you. It's pretty easy, straightforward, and might be surprising.
Yeah. So I think we have few minutes
Lisa,
for any questions, if you would like to share something or ask.
Yeah, I know that it's a lot, and maybe it's shaking some beliefs that you have so far, but give it a calm thought and observe everyone you know. Observe how they go about life. How successful are people who are just meditating? How successful are people who are eating this or that? Really make your own lab of life to understand these things. Don't take anything for granted, as usual.
And of course, don't trust us anything. It's like, this is our experience. You need to kind of share it against your reality and see if this is true for you. Karin would love that we check. We will. Do you want...
So,
and,
Lisa, Karin...
Tai, Eve, Christiane. Okay, Anne, Miriam, Sylvia. Okay, great. We'll check for all of you. Great.
Yeah. Cool.
Eleonora for us too. Okay. Kat. Okay. Kat, is this your real name? Kat Plaza? This is your last name? Yeah, great. Okay, we can then. Beautiful. So we'll check these and we will send you a little update. Anna, yes? Katerina Plaza. Good. Great. Gergana, okay. We will. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
so now we have overwhelmed you one more time.
let this sink in and really check against your life experience, all of those, and kind of check against yourself as well. Some of those are difficult to actually judge on one's own, so it's actually helpful to get a neutral look from outside, because we think that some of this we dealt with or something like that, and then it turns out we measure and maybe not fully.
Mm-hmm. And one of our wildest dreams is to become living proofs that wealth and spirituality are possible to unlimited extent, so that all those who are sitting on the fence and afraid to follow their calling would jump off that fence and follow us, and see that this is totally reasonable, logical, nothing mystical, nothing overly mystical about it. And
Yeah.
you know, we can create a new paradigm of healthy and happy and free living in actually realistic abundance.
There you go. Well, that's all we had for you today. Only this. So thank you as always for coming and for showing your beautiful faces on Saturday and co-creating this with us. It's really, really beautiful to share with you guys. So sending you a big hug. Thank you, and we see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
much. Bye bye.
Top notch.